Hello and welcome. Today, we are diving deep into the 2024 Global Nutrition Report. It's this massive collection of data that paints a really stark picture of what the world is eating and, what that's actually doing to our health. So let's just jump right in.
I want to start with just one number, 11 million. That's how many people, according to the Global Burden of Disease Study, die from a bad diet every single year. Think about that. That makes it the #1 risk factor for death across the entire globe. It's not smoking, it's not high blood pressure, it's the food we're putting on our plates.
So if our diet is literally our biggest health threat, that leads to a pretty huge question, right? What are we, as a planet, getting so fundamentally wrong about the way we eat? That's what we're going to try and figure out today. Okay, so first, we really have to get our heads around the sheer scale of this thing, because this isn't just about a few bad choices here and there. This is a full-blown global crisis, and it has these immense human and economic costs. And this is where you see this kind of crazy paradox that we're all facing. We've got 2.5 billion adults who are overweight or obese, but at the exact same time, we have 2 billion people who are suffering from what's called hidden hunger. They're deficient in key vitamins and minerals. And just tragically, 148 million kids have had their growth stunted because of chronic malnutrition. It's this crisis of both way too much and nowhere near enough. And the impact isn't just physical. The Food and Agriculture Organization estimates that the economic drag from poor nutrition is $3.5 trillion a year. That's from direct healthcare costs, sure, but also from massive losses in productivity. So this isn't just a health crisis, it's a staggering economic crisis too. Okay, so before we start looking at the solutions, let's take a quick step back and cover the absolute fundamentals. What does your body actually need to run properly? We're going to break down the science, but keep it nice and simple. So I want you to think of your body like a construction site. Carbohydrates, they're the main energy source, right? They're the fuel that powers all the heavy machinery. Protein, that's your literal building blocks, the bricks and the mortar that you use to build and repair everything. And then you have fats, which are absolutely crucial for all the complex electrical and plumbing work, like making hormones and building cell walls. You need all three to get the job done. Now, if the macros are the building materials, then micronutrients, they're like the spark plugs. They're these tiny vitamins and minerals that don't give you energy themselves, but they kick off hundreds of critical reactions that keep the whole system humming, everything from your immune system to how your brain works. And the thing is, deficiencies in these are just everywhere. 1 billion people don't get enough vitamin D. 2 billion people are affected by iron deficiency. That's the world's most common nutritional disorder. And almost 2 billion are at risk of not getting enough iodine. This hidden hunger is a total silent epidemic. So how does all of this connect to our health? Well, now we're going to link these nutrient issues directly to the biggest diseases of our time. And this is where the data gets crystal clear. And the contrast it's just staggering. A 2019 study looked at ultra-processed foods, packaged snacks, sugary drinks, fast food. It found that eating more than 4 servings a day was linked to a 62% increased risk of dying from any cause. But on the flip side, another major study found that people with the highest intake of whole plant foods had a 25% lower risk. It is a literal life or death difference. And you can see this play out with specific diseases, too. Let's take type 2 diabetes. One huge analysis found that just 1 or 2 sugary drinks a day boosts your risk by 26%. But then another big study showed that eating a handful of nuts 5 or more times a week was linked to a 21% decreased risk. See, these small everyday choices have these huge compounding effects over time. So the good news is, we have proof of what actually works. This quote, it comes from the landmark Predamid study, a really big deal in the scientific community. And it found that just by shifting to a Mediterranean-style diet, people saw a 30% drop in heart attacks, strokes, and death from heart disease. The evidence for this stuff is just so powerful. So that brings us to the solutions. And instead of getting lost in the weeds arguing about single nutrients, what the science really points to is looking at overall dietary patterns. So let's look at the actual blueprints that are proven to work. So let's take that Mediterranean diet again. The magic here isn't about cutting out entire food groups. It's all about balance. Roughly half your energy comes from complex carbs, about 35% from healthy fats like olive oil, and around 15% from protein. It's a sustainable, balanced way to eat, not some extreme short-term fix. And what's so fascinating is when you actually look at all the diets that are proven to be healthy, whether it's Mediterranean or the DASH diet for blood pressure or plant-based eating, they're not really fighting with each other. They all share the same core DNA.
They're full of plants, they're low in processed junk, and they focus on whole foods.
So really, this is it. This is what all of that complex data boils down to. Just 3 simple, actionable rules. Number 1, maximize whole plant foods. 2, prioritize healthy fats and lean proteins. And 3, minimize all the ultra-processed stuff, the added sugar and the excess salt. That's the blueprint, right there.
All right, so let's bring all this huge global data right back down to earth, right back to you, and right back to the choices you're making every single day.
If there's one thing to take away from all this research, it's that this is actually incredibly empowering. The evidence is just overwhelming. The small, consistent choices you make on your plate have a profound, direct, and measurable impact on your quality of life and on how long you live.
And you know, there is so much room for us to do better. Just take fiber, for instance, which you get from plants. 95% of American adults don't even get the minimum recommended amount. 95%. That one stat just shows you how far our modern diets have drifted from that blueprint for good health.
But here's the thing. Personal choice is only part of the story. The final data point from the report is maybe the toughest one to swallow. 3.1 billion people on this planet simply cannot afford to eat a healthy diet. So the final question we have to ask isn't just about what we should eat, it's how do we build a global food system that makes a healthy future possible for everyone?